goes to the military, Department of Defense, every year.
I think it's more than that.
Yeah, whatever the number is, it's a huge
number.
I
think it's huge, man. And I think you're undershooting it, man.
Yeah, and in the context of us having 10 times more military might than the next nation. Whatever the number is, it's huge.
Yeah, I think it's huge, man.
And it's huge. It might be 700 billion.
There you go. Yeah, now you're talking. That's the right number.
It's a humongous number. And I heard someone, a politician, call for reallocation of some of that money. That's a huge chunk of change that if it were reallocated to education and social services across the country, would have a huge impact. So I think those are some of the things that we can do and we must do.
Well, first of all, Stu, I think I wouldn't disagree with what needs to be done. I just think, and if you're going to do it, you're going to have to get rid of the politicians that you have in there today, and get some real people in there who care about the people, man.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I think that's what you would need.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm starting to see that happen. You
can't do it with these guys that they got in there now. They're not. It's not going to happen, man.
I was happy to see, that brother Jamal who defeated Elliot Ingo. I've heard him speak a few times. Very progressive. More folks like AOC, this younger generation, that are not married to the status quo and are not afraid to make a systemic change. That's really what we need, as opposed to these get-along politicians that, believe in gradualism and one little baby step at a time to change things. That's not going to work. Well,
what, Stu? It would be okay if they was even talking about it, but they're not even. Those people that you're talking about gradualism, they're not even doing that. What they're talking about doing is going down there and going along with a program that only benefits one group, and them telling you how they're going to make that better. Now, that's what you want to call gradualism. I think you're giving them way too much credit, because I think what they're doing is even dumber than that. Gradualism might be reasonable. There was some reasonable gradualism, you know what I mean? But they have not even done that. They have gone down there and decided that they're going to go along with a program, this MWBE program, which again has to be the stupidest thing in the world when their goal is to make sure that one group of people only have 70% of everything. That's their goal. Only have 70% of everything. And they're not even, I like the Reverend Backus thing better. Give us 40%. We'll see you later. See you. Yeah, because it's guaranteed. It's MasterCard. You can't change it. Right. And that's what needs to happen. What they're talking about is going to be a goal. Then they got some nice little agency with some nice lady who's I'm sure is a very nice person. And I'm sure a lot of people in MWB are very nice people and well-meaning people. I'm sure of that. But I don't think that means a hill of beans, man, when it really comes down to, equity. How do you take and deal with money that belongs to everybody in a manner that makes sense? And what they're doing in that program makes no sense. Then they got an agency like the EDC, who, when you go on their website, talks about all the jobs they have. And of course, they're run by a white guy. And they're allowing these agencies with these white men to vet millions and millions of dollars for things. What the fuck is going on with that? What is going on with that, man?
Business as usual.
So New York City is really actually is the economic South Africa. When it comes to the New York City government, we're living in economic South Africa.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment, Stuart?
I would say so. I mean, clearly it's it's a caste system. If you're a white male, you benefit. If you're not, you are ostracized and marginalized and eliminated from any equity participation. I mean, and there's no way to cross over. There's no, it's a caste system. You can't pull yourself up by the bootstraps and become a white male. I mean, there's you're either in or you're out. And
yeah, only Sammy Sosa has been able to try that one. Michael Jackson. They're the only two guys that I've seen actually do that on purpose.
Yeah, doesn't work. Can't work.
No, either you is or you ain't. Well, yeah, I mean,
so it is a caste system, very much like South Africa, where they had racial categories of people that were defined by the government with certain benefits or lack thereof based on which caste category you belong to.
Well, that's exactly what the MWBE program is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a racially caste system that's set up by whites, because there's no way nobody black set that thing up.
No.
And if they do, they need to bring that person out in front of us, because in fact, it might have been the black lady who was throwing the black paint on Black Lives Matter on 125th Street. It might have been her with the Jesus shirt on. And was on camera, was proud of herself. Right, who's she getting paid for? Yeah, well, hey, look, everybody got to pay their rent, man. Everybody got to eat, man. I ain't mad at her.
You don't step on your brother's throat because you're hungry. I'm sorry.
No, yes, you do. Apparently you do, Stu. Apparently you do. Apparently you do.
You know, that's an observation. Okay.
That's all it is.
But it's not an excuse.
No. I ain't Stu. I'm not making no excuse. I'm more of a truth teller. I'm not making no excuse. Mm-hmm. I ain't down with that. Because that never works. You don't win like that.
No, because you have so many folks historically and still today that have sacrificed their own personal and family benefit in order for the greater good. So, you know, just because you got to eat is not a reason to denigrate your brother in the movement. I'm sorry, I'm not going for that.
I'm with you. You know, there's a service out. There's a new streaming service called Peacock, which is owned by NBC. Mm-hmm. So it's available on computers, and it's actually available on your Fire Stick or Fire TV. So I put it on my. It's in the Play Store. I put it on my TV. Mm-hmm. And they have a thing on there, a lot of documentaries on there without commercials. Mm-hmm. Some of it's free, some of it's not, but a lot of it is free. And they have this thing about Martin Luther King on there, which NBC did doing his 50th anniversary of his death. And I watched that thing, and man, they went back to I would say that's a must-see for anybody. It went back to when he was a young kid, starting the whole thing, his whole arc. They did a whole arc on him, and some of the backstories and some stuff you hadn't seen before, but they filled in a lot of the backstories. And man, I'm just saying, man, this country there's only 3 words to describe this country as some of the things that they've done. Terrible. I mean, when you look at some of the things when we were kids from the 60s and you hear the things that the white people were saying and the flags, and I'm not talking about down south. I mean, go to Skokie, Illinois, man, when Martin Luther King was in Chicago. It was the behavior, when you watch that and you look at what's going on now with the president, you'll say to yourself, I'm not surprised. Because a lot of those kids that you see in those young people that you see in those things, they're all grandparents and older senior citizens now, and they've raised families, and it's hard to believe that they changed their attitude over time. There's no reason for them to have changed their attitude. They've been misinformed and lied about, just like everybody else. That's the thing that I find interesting in this country. One group of people have been lied to and lied about, and then you got another group of people who've been lied to.
I say everybody's been lied to. Be my particular take on it.
I stand corrected, Stu. And the folks that are doing the lying is you're back to the elites and the folks that are in control and running things. And, it's in their interest to run and perpetuate certain narratives that keep people apart, that keep people from coming together, and that keep people from seeing the actual game that's being run on them. So, I think we're all being lied to. But, something that you say a lot is that the technology of the machine in the pocket, this device here, is like changing things because now
everybody is an information producer. Everybody is a potential publisher. So that has changed the game. You know, it's in kind of interesting in that there is so much information out there now. There's a lot of disinformation. So now the challenge is to filter and to gather that information that makes sense and that is quote unquote correct. But even with the overflow and inundation of information, it's a hell of a lot better than it was when we were coming up, when the information flow was extremely constricted and very tightly controlled by just a handful of.
Well, here's the thing. I'm glad you said that, because the thing that when you look at this particular documentary on MLK, something, but it's on the Peacock streaming service, which is free, by the way, like YouTube and all the rest of them. They were talking about how the civil rights leader, Martin Luther King, one of his brilliant moves was he figured out how to tap into the media to show what was going on, but moreover, what comes to find out, he came along at the same time when television news was in its infancy. There was no real television news, as you remember when we were growing up. It was bullshit. News was on for like 15 minutes every night.
Yeah, and there was very little, there was almost nothing out in the studio. There was a guy sitting at a table reading copy.
Period. And don't forget, they had a weather guy. Remember Mr. Weatherby? They had a weather. Yeah. Some channels, a couple of channels had an actual weather guy. Then they all had a weather person. But the news was only 15 minutes. I remember Nat King Cole had a TV show. It was only 15 minutes. Some of the TV shows were only 15 minutes. But the thing about the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King, I think the interesting observation was that the news, all of a sudden, the network news became a thing because there was things to cover outside of the guy reading the news. It was an afterthought. And when you look at all of the things in Birmingham, and not just Birmingham, because that's where they went, but when they started the school thing, because this thing showed that there was the 9 kids that were trying to get into the public high schools after Roe v. Wade, and that was under Eisenhower's domain. And Eisenhower sent the troops in to make sure that these kids got in school. This was before the Birmingham stuff. And one of the things that one of the ladies came on there, the Elder Horton Gnomes, your former boss, came on and said that was at that particular time, which I did not know that. She said at that particular time, it was the first time that it looked like the government was doing something to help black people. They sent the army in to make sure that the kids got to school safely. Yeah, Eisenhower did that. And King and them picked up on the fact that if they got news coverage or these things got on the Northern News, it would help to bring about a change, and they had to not fight back. Brilliant strategy from some young 26-year-old PhD graduate guy. And it also coincided with the fact that the television thing was just coming of an age, similarly to what the social media is today, how it's coming of age. He came along when the television news thing and news film cameras were portable enough where they could shoot the film and get the film back to the thing and blah, blah, blah. And it was, the guy kept saying video, but you could see that all those cameras were filmed. Right. Just like people call, do you got tape now when everything's digital? There's no tape. Yeah, so same thing. But the point was that Martin Luther King and them, they took it. They were their whole thing was enhanced by a confluence of technology coming of age at the same time that this was happening. Yeah. And then you put in the Norman Pettis Bridge. Then you put in the Birmingham Bull Connor. You know who Bull Connor. Who when you listen to Bull Connor right now, you go to yourself. They should just put him some video next to Trump. And because as I sat here and I watched looking at Bull Connor, I kept thinking he sounded so much like Trump and the crazy stuff he was saying and his actions. And so I think the takeaway was that the more things change, the more things don't change. That was my takeaway, Stu.
Yeah, yeah. Or as my uncle used to say, nothing changed but the date.
I've heard that. I've heard that by more than your uncle. That's been said. That's right. So I thought it was I thought it was an incredible documentary. Anybody, if you get a chance to put the Peacock on your tablet or your phone, boom, and it's commercial free, and they have gone into the well of NBC immense archives and put this Peacock.
It was an NBC produced documentary, The Kingpin.
Well, remember, the Peacock network, a Peacock streaming service, is a streaming service that's NBC put together, just like Pluto or YouTube, so or Hulu, or even I dare say Netflix. So they're more of a Netflix competitor with a free component, and because they have such a vast library, so remember, so you saw a lot of the John Chancellor, you saw all of these NBC, but Mike Doug, you saw all these guys when they were kids, young guys. They all came along when Martin Luther King came along, and that was their version of the machine in the pocket, TV.
Yeah, sure.
Because most people didn't have TVs, as you and I both know.
Yeah.
Most people didn't have that. Well, and if you did have a TV, I know most people did not have a telephone. I remember that.
Remember the party line? Our first phone was the party line.
Well, I remember.
Share the line, only one on the line at a time.
Well, we didn't have a party phone, but I remember when we got a telephone, and that telephone was on the wall in the kitchen, and that phone wasn't in there one day. My mother came in and she had a lock on that phone, baby. She had a lock on the phone in her house. Dude, she had a lock on the phone in her kitchen.
Well, Miss Frazier didn't play, and she had some very special kids at that.
Baby, you're right. I didn't
I'll leave it at that.
I'm lying. I guess you might say, I know who I'm rolling with. Still figured out how to use it, though, still.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, you can take the thing down 4 or 5 times, the operator would come on there, right, and you would tell him you was an officer, you need to make a call. Actually, they used to work on the payphones, too, by the way, for a long time. On the phone, tell them you was a police officer, you need to make a call and give them the number. And, you click it a few times, you didn't have to put no money in. This was a courtesy that they gave to the police. Wow, I forgot about that.
That one.
Yeah, I forgot about This is what happens when you have a lock on your phone in the kitchen. You start thinking of ways of how to use phones without any money or without authorization. Isn't that interesting?
It is. But back to your point about technology impacting the political landscape. I think both Eisenhower and then John Kennedy, shortly after him, were reacting very much to the fact that American people were seeing black folks being hosed and beaten and dog sick on
kids
for the first time. They'd never seen that before.
Kids do.
Yeah.
Kids.
And to read about it in a newspaper is one thing, but to see it on your TV, that was impactful. And the neither president could have that, so they had to do something.
Well, they also, there was I would say there's another thing that I would recommend that people look at, and it's on. I want to say that I saw it on Netflix. It's called "I Am Not Your Negro" by James Baldwin.
Yeah, I saw that. It is on Netflix.
Okay, so I would say that if you watch that, and of course, obviously, I grew up. We grew up. He lived right around the corner from us, too. So he was someone that my sister, that my mother knew, his sister and everything. So I'm not saying that as a little twerp. Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't call him that. I didn't say that. I've known the guy, but he's a neighborhood person. Let me say that from Harlem. And the thing that I saw that struck me about when you read about him, his thing, he was saying how they had a meeting. Him and Lorraine Hansberry, Sidney Poitier, as remember they had a meeting, and I didn't know. Of course, we had the Lorraine Hansberry Theater and all that, but he was saying how they brought Bobby Kennedy in there, and they was trying to get him to focus in on stuff, and he ignored them. I don't know if you remember that part. There was a little part in there where he talked about how they had a meeting with him. They thought he was going to be, the white guy who was going to try to, help out. And they asked him to walk with one of the kids into the school down there. This was after doing the thing, and he said it was a waste of time.
Yeah,
he didn't get it, and I remember he saying that Lorraine Hansberry got up and walked out of the meeting, walked out of the room. Told him later. And I thought that was interesting how it took that all of these people who are being portrayed as being, truth tellers and all that. A lot of them had, histories that weren't necessarily so. Remember, he worked with that he was the counsel. Bobby Kennedy was the counsel for the white guy that was calling everybody a communist. I forgot that guy's name. What's that guy's name? McCarthy. He was the attorney for him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Hey, that's something stupid. Those old TV news.
Wow. Did not know that one.
The thing that keeps striking me about those television, like when you show Lyndon Johnson, they showed Lyndon Johnson in these documentaries about the Voters' Rights Bill, and every time they show him and they pan that camera around into the Senate, wherever he was talking from, I only saw one black person in the whole joint.
Yeah.
This is 1950, 60, whatever it was, 62. One black person in the whole joint, man.
Probably Ed Brooks, Massachusetts.
I had no idea who he was, but what caught my attention was that if you did that today, it's almost the same thing. I'm talking about the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that picture of the state senator Joe Gallagher in his office, and this is an aside, and him having a picture of the New York State Senate in his office and going in there and talking to him as, usually did. And he had a picture of all of them in there, and he had on a white suit, and he was the only black guy in the New York State Senate. And he took a picture. He had on a pure white suit, white shoes, and everything on. And I remember saying to him, I can't miss you. And he started laughing. I'm just saying, Stu.
And that was in the 80s.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the 80s. Sometime during the 80s, right? Yeah, that was clearly last century.
Mm-hmm.
But the more, like your uncle said, things haven't done. There hasn't been a whole lot of change. You just got people going in there, saying the same things that they've said before. How they're going to be, how they're going to help them to make the white men be more fairer. How they're going to go in and make a system that's not designed to help you. Instead of just saying, hey, we ain't in that. Just like when they talk about bringing a whole lot of people to Washington and doing the last guy they'd ever talk about is going to talk to Farrakhan because he's the one that figured out how to get everybody to come there with no problem.
Sure did.
Why they never going to talk to him about that?
No, they're doing their best to continue to marginalize and demonize that brother. He's just too powerful. They can't fathom him.
They can't marginalize him, but they sure demonize him. They're doing a good job of that.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, what the hell? I just found that incredulous that when people demonstrate the evidence, they still act like they don't get it. And they showed that's another thing that they showed in this documentary. They had Stokely Carmichael when he started talking about Black Power. They had him on a conference, on a panel show, 3 white guys, and he's sitting at a table by himself, 3 white guys shooting him with questions. And they were playing the stupid white guy. We don't know what you're talking about. They was going, Black Power means you want to take over, because violence. And he's going, no. Black Power means looking out for the community. Black Power means, having political power. And they kept acting like they didn't get it.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter. Fast forward, same thing.
Same thing. I'll give you another one, Stu. Defund the police. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. They started playing that, we don't know what you're talking about, stupid shit.
Well, it's back to your other point, your earlier point about the lying and the misperception. It's not stupidity, it's intentional.
You think that they're intentionally not smart, Stuart?
No. I'm not saying they're not smart. I'm saying that the people that are perpetuating are intentionally.
You're tuned in to GHCR, Grant Houses Community Radio, home of the Community News Service.
He says that so nicely. He says that like somebody just gave her a pastrami sandwich with pickles and.
What a professional, Miss Tina Dixon.
No, Sue. I am TinaDixon.com. Get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but what I was saying is that, you know, the lies and the misperceptions are strategic. Then it's not motivated by stupidity. It's motivated by strategery. And you know, maybe on the other side, the folks that are just sitting there listening, taking it in, you might say that there's some stupidity on that side of the table. But on the side of the perpetuation of the lies and the misinformation, it's very strategic and very targeted.
Well, they got a lot of, I guess when you look at the money part of it, they got a lot of reasons to keep their phony baloney, as Blazing Saddles said, keep their phony baloney game going.
Yeah. And as we said, I think we said on the air last week that, you know, if the truth really be told, if the stories really be told, if the photographic evidence really be displayed, there'll be such horror and outrage. It will, you know, folks, you know, it'll be overloaded. It will be too much. This country has done such dastardly, incredibly wicked and evil things that exposure of that would the system would implode. And the caretakers and manipulators and the elite that run things, they know that. And, you know, to me, that's certainly a fear. And as that sister who talked about the 400 years of playing Monopoly with no pieces on the board and no money to play the game. And white folks are very much, I'm talking about the white folks now, in control, the elite, the historical elite.
You mean the white men?
Yeah, the white men that have historically been in charge and running things. They know that if the lid were really released, the rage and the retribution that would be coming their way. Because they know better than we know of what they have done.
Well, you know, Stu, you know, this is just my observation and it probably doesn't mean shit. But I've come to realize that you don't get away with shit in this life, man. Mm-hmm. You don't get away with nothing, man. Yeah. And I don't care what they think, the shit's gonna come out and you're not getting away with it. It's gonna come out, man. So to me, it's better to just go ahead on and deal with it. And you know, the reason what you're saying, the reason why it's like that, because they have no, at least to this point, decided that they're not going to use any methods of contrition and admission. And you can't, you know, they don't want to, if they wanted to make amends, then you wouldn't. I mean, everybody fucks up, Stu. But for them to try to act like it's not happening, I think that just exasperates it. To try to run from it, I think that exasperates it. I mean, maybe they don't want to be contrite because the money is huge and they think that there's their God-given right because they set all those things up, but you never do anything by yourself. So there's always other people involved in that in most things. So I don't see why they are acting that way and not just going on and just go ahead on and start, you know, and you know, showing some contrition about all this shit, man, and stop their fake shit because people know that they're faking, and I don't know why they don't see that. It's really interesting. Why they think we don't see what they're doing. I don't know who said that. I was just reading. Somebody said that, you know, it might have been one of them famous guys, Booker T or somebody saying that, you know, that ain't, or that might have been James Weldon Johnson who said this too, that, you know, we know more, the white men don't know us and we know more about them.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That might have been James Weldon Johnson.
It could have been any number of them, because it's certainly a well-known and common observation that, you know, from slavery days till today, we know all about them because we've had to know all about them just to survive in their system. And and we, in the meantime, have been invisible to them. They don't know nothing about us. So we don't even count. What are you talking about? Who? What?
Right.
I'm busy.
You sound like the
busy. Too
you
much
sound
going
like,
on. I'm
you
busy.
sound like the mayor.
Yeah, I'm busy.
That was the mayor said.
Oh, those people. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, our MWBs. We forgot all about them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why would they care, still?
Only because they got to fake the funk. I don't think they really do care.
I don't think
they might fake caring, but I don't believe they really care. And I think that's just baked into their DNA.
We don't care.
Yeah. And to your point about why don't they let go, and they can't let go. I think they're going to go all the way to the bitter end, holding on, kicking and screaming for their advantages and their privilege. The younger folks clearly see what's going on. The younger white folks, I give them credit. There, a lot of them, not all of them, because you got the alt-right thing, but so many of them across the country are opening their eyes and seeing what's going on. So that's a good thing. But the old guard, I don't think they're gonna ever change. All we can hope for is that they finally die out.
This is just me. So if you don't get the people in there who are going to have the confrontations, have the conversations about right and wrong, disagree, first of all, I think the whole system of controlling the policy is unsustainable. You cannot have a controlling of the policy when people don't believe in consensus, particularly policy that affects everyone. Now, if you just want a policy affecting your fucking group, okay. But when you start talking about policy that affects everyone, you have to have some sort of consensus to get everybody to agree that this stuff makes some type of sense. And you don't have that. What you have is, this is our group, this is that group. We have the we, they. It's we against they. And that's how the country is run right now with the two political system that's controlled by white people. Both systems. And I can't think of a more blatant case of that than de Blasio, man. He's to be honest with you, he's really terrible, man. His policies sucks. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't moved the needle at all. He just kept the job. And I think him going for the president really says a lot about him thinking about looking at his job and thinking he did a good job.
Yeah.
Or him thinking that Trump's doing such a terrible job that even he could get in there. It defies. It's incredible. I mean, just to have this sort of economic machine that the city has, and you get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You get nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
In my mind, he has masqueraded as a progressive.
He's not a progressive, man.
But when you look at what he has done and not
he's
done,
a white guy. He's no different than Giuliani, man.
Right.
Or Dinkins.
He didn't change the police policies in any significant way.
None.
He brought back Giuliani's police commissioner. I couldn't believe
that. That's right. Unbelievable. Brought him back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he revived and kept that broken windows policy.
There you go. He didn't even get a woman. He didn't even go for a white woman to be the police commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
The Irish guy.
And so his policing was no better than Giuliani. Stop and frisk went away, but like I said, the broken windows took in place where they go out and arrest predominantly black and brown folks for small misdemeanor crimes.
That's right.
Filling up our jails with misdemeanors, offenders. I mean, it's unconscionable. And then what we've been talking about, all morning, his economic policy. So no, he's not a progressive. He's progressive only in terms of his,
rhetoric. Rhetoric. Yeah, rhetoric. Rhetoric. Yeah, he's not real. No. He's not a real person, man. He's terrible, man.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't done anything to help. He's kind of shameful, man. And I don't know. And I would look at the city council and I would say the same thing about them, man. You know, 51 of the majority of the city council is made up of people of color, and they follow behind the white people, the white men, like you know, like a hungry cat. When the cat wants his food, the cat wants his food. The cat is your buddy. When the cat ain't hungry, the cat is not your buddy. He's hiding all over the place, sleeping all the time. That's them. They not, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, it's interesting how they have no economic, they vote on things that they know it's not right. Here they voted on, you know, they know here's the money for the city contract. They know ain't nobody getting none of it. How could they stand up there and say that they think that a program that makes everybody a minority is a good fucking idea? How could they stand for that, man? It's kind of disgusting when you really think about it.
Yeah, it is.
It is. How could they stand for that? He act like, you know, I remember listening to Robert Jackson, I'm saying his name, who, when he came to WHCR when he was up there, he started talking about he was going to go down there and, you know, get them to be more fair. I walked out the room. I said, man, this dude, he's sitting there with his little bow tie. I want to take my sneaker off and smack him with my sneaker. Mm-hmm. Well, I figured if I hit him with my sneaker, then it wouldn't have been a real crime, like if I would have just went over there and smacked him in his face like he deserved saying that. Because I thought I should just take off my sneaker and throw it at him or something. Like the man did. I should have did that. Like the dude did the George. I should have took off my sneaker, threw my sneaker. He's sitting there with his bow tie on, right? Real, you know, real tough looking guy talking about how he's gonna go down there and make those white men be fair and get us more money. With his pink bow tie on.
Yeah.
Come on, man. He did a disservice to all bow tie wearers across the world, Stu. They all like you know, like they all should have descended upon him and beat him with a giant bow tie. He was terrible, man. I thought it was a terrible image that he's gonna go down there and get them to be more fair. How's he gonna do that? And the person who's interviewed didn't even ask him that. Well, how you gonna do that? I'm gonna go down there and tell them what they're doing is not right. It's incredibly crazy, man. Incredibly crazy, Stu. I don't understand what you have to ask yourself. You know, what kind of world are we? What kind of reality are we living in when we think that, you know, you could just, and maybe that's been some of our problems where we, you know, have thought like with the Blasio, oh, he's got black family, he gets it. And I think the lesson I got from that is that you got to be super specific. Super specific and super pointed as to what it is that you expect from the guy before you give him your vote, man. That's what I think.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to, I'm back to my original thing all the time. You know, you got to shop for democracy, man. Yeah, voting is not a team sport, and joining up on a team is why, you know, join up on a team. Say I'm this or that. I don't think that any of that matters, man. I don't think that matters. I don't think anybody cares. And if people, and I'm unlike other people, they was on TV today, all getting all crazy because they asked Trump whether he's going to accept the election. And I was going to myself, why the fuck are you asking him that?
What kind of question is that?
Yeah, what kind of stupid question? Why are you asking him that? Why would you care?
Right.
I don't give a shit.
You're asking him to say no just by posing the question.
I don't know why I don't know. Maybe you're right. I'm not going to dispute that because I kept saying to myself, if he loses, what the fuck do you care what he thinks?
Right. Thank you.
You out, man. Fuck out of here. Get to talk about it, walking, catch your buddy, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lost, man. See you. Wouldn't want to be you, and don't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't come back. Oh, he might run again. Let him run again. That's his right. I don't understand that. You know, you either you got rules or you don't got the rules. The rules is he can run again. Let him run again.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to run again, he can run again. I don't see anything wrong with that. Something wrong. People want to put him in there again. That's another whole story. But if he want to run again, so freaking what? Let him run again. I would say that would be my point, Stu. Go ahead. So they're in there asking him the stupid, nonsensical stuff, and he's going, well, you know, I'm going to see. It doesn't matter whether he sees them or not. It doesn't matter. You lose, you're out. Now, you know, what they was trying to get him to say, oh, if I lose, I'm not leaving. He ain't going to say that. Now, here's another thing, Stu. You know, I don't know if you saw the video of the two the white man and the white lady. The white guy's a lawyer holding his AK-57 while some demonstrators are marching past his.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, marching past his house. Mm-hmm. They weren't at him. They were marching past his house to go to the mayor's house.
Yeah, and the wife was standing out there with a pistol.
With a pistol in her hand, I'm saying to myself, obviously, they don't know anything about criminals. You know, when you're a criminal, the idea of giving somebody a fair chance is slim and none.
Right.
So
they look so ridiculous.
Of course. Well, there was criminals out here. If there was criminals out here, you would not have had a chance.
Right.
They wouldn't have waited for you to come outside with your AK and all that. They just wait till you're coming outside to get in your car and boom. Or do like you saw what they guy did to the judge. Yeah. Son. Mm. That's Stu. That was a criminal act. That right there is what you would call a criminal act. That's how a criminal act is committed. You come in there, you fake like you want something, and you do something else, and the other person doesn't have a chance. That's criminal. That's what criminals do. So when I saw them out there, right? They're out there, the two ladies and the man, they're out there, and they're waving their gun and all this stuff. Today, the governor of the state said that he's prepared, because they was going to arrest them, somebody was talking about arresting them, for brandishing their weapons like that, when nobody was doing anything to them. They were the ones that looked like menacing and threats because no one had a weapon but them.
Yeah.
The governor of their state said that if they're arrested, he's prepared to pardon the two white people.
White privilege.
Yes, it is. White I don't mind, it's the white economic privilege that bothers me. To be honest with you, Stu, I don't really give a shit about the white people giving themselves privileges. I don't care about that. Just me. What I care about is the white people giving themselves economic privilege with money that belongs to all of us. Because if I got my money and I'll give myself some privilege. I don't need them, man. I don't need them, man. Give me the money. I don't need them for nothing. If that's going to be the case, I'm talking about the evil, mean ones that think that everything should go through them. My point is that I don't care about that kind of privilege. They want to have privilege, I'm having. I think that you need to have the economic privilege, and that'll bring everybody. That'll bring the kind of equality that we're all looking for. That's fundamental.
That's fundamental.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everything will flow from that.
There you go. That's all right. You ain't got to be, I don't have no reason to be rude to you.
No, you'll get your education, you'll get your food, you'll get your health care, all the other stuff will flow from the equity distribution.
I thought it was interesting that they're using the thing about the school. I thought it caught my attention. But we're complaining about the schools, and they're talking about having a private tutoring. And someone was on there complaining about the inequality of the schools if that happens. And I kept thinking about, they don't care about no damn inequalities about the school. They care about the economic inequalities of the school, because the schools, there's a lot of money spent on schools in our culture, because and a lot of tertiary things that go along with schools, spending for schools. And I thought that was interesting that they were trying to make the case that, oh, well, now all of a sudden they're worrying about some kids are not going to get in. If we don't have a school, some kids are going to be left behind. Like they not being left behind by coming to the building every day. Nobody's being left behind by that, Stu. The system is so great or so cool that when people are going, everybody's going to school, everybody's getting a really good and just education. I think not, Stu. And so here they are on TV complaining that if we don't get the kids back into school, some kids are going to be left behind. And I'm making the case that even when the school's open, some kids are being left behind.
A lot of kids are being left behind. Not just some, a lot of kids are being left behind.
Oh, I stand corrected. No, I stand corrected. A lot.
Yeah. I mean, a huge portion.
That is the level of I think their level of hubris And self-righteousness needs to be examined, man. I mean, it's incredible. Well, God bless you, Stu. Take your sneeze. It's all right. Don't mention it. I think their level of hubris is, I think, off the chart. I just don't understand why they think. Well, I guess maybe they.
You do understand. That's just a figure of speech. I'll let it go. When you do that, sometimes I want to jump in there, but it's a figure of speech.
I stand corrected. Well, I hear you back. I can't say I don't understand. Well, let me put it this way. I don't know why people go along with all that. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know why they go along with it when they know that they lying like that. They not doing the job over there. The job's not getting done, man. Mm-hmm. The job is not getting done when you can have some schools have this, some schools have that. Some of the buildings are 100 years old. The system is being run by, it's a huge system, and they have no input from the parents. They have nothing. They think they do everything, and they think they're the end all and cure all for everything. Mm-hmm. It's an illogical Byzantine system. It really is. Mm-hmm. And I think the only way that makes sense is, wait for it, give me my goddamn $28,187 educational voucher. That's what I think. You need competition, man. You need competition. You gotta have competition for the educators. They was talking about today having these thing called pod classes, something, where they're thinking about getting the private teachers to the thing. And I'm going like, private teacher? You better look at that remote training and get a private teacher who can come in there remotely and teach a group of kids at one time. These kids are communicating over their devices when they're playing their games. I see my little granddaughter, she got the headphones. She's playing with these other kids and all this stuff, and all kinds of shooting games. I'm sitting there one day watching my granddaughter playing a game, and a guy in one of the games, they shot a guy at one of the creatures in the head, and my granddaughter said, "Nice headshot." Nice headshot. The guy's head splattered open, man. They got all these kind of, my point is, they got all these kind of games where the kids communicate with each other. So why would they do that for schools, Stuart?
Well, the why is because it would be disruptive of the game they already got going on. And they don't like disruption, even though at this point it's in their face and they can't stop it. But they're still fighting against it. Still trying to maintain status quo. Still trying to maintain the resources flowing the way that the resources have historically flown.
Ain't getting past that, are you?
I'm sorry. I mean, it's fundamental. Back to your point about giving my money. I mean, I think that's foundational to so much of what's going on. So much flows from the economic resources and where they are, and who's getting it, and who's controlling it.
That is so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is so crazy, man. So so if you really want to bring about some sort of change, you're, I guess, saying that the driving of the economic engine is kind of where it is. You have to figure out how to get on the economic train and make sure that train is stopping at your stop or your created stop.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up earlier, the example of South Africa. And, I occasionally look back on that. And, I think about the struggles of Nelson Mandela and so many others that sacrificed so much for the freedom of Black folks in South Africa. And you see, even once they got their freedom and they can vote, I remember seeing those long lines of people standing in line going for miles to vote.
Yeah, I remember that
election in South Africa, and how heartwarming that was. But then you look and see, well, folks can vote now, they control the government, but they still don't control the economic resources, all those diamond and gold mines. That has not changed. So the economics of the country, there's been no real redistribution of wealth.
there's been a redistribution of political power, but it's meaningless without the economic power. And so you have the government there, you know, fighting over meager resources, whereas the folks that have always run the rich mineral mines in that region, in that country, still there, still running and still controlling it. So again, not much has changed. You know, folks can vote, but it's a big so what.
Yeah, they got to be demanding. Now, Stu, you know, you see that now all of a sudden, starting this week, they're back over there talking about the unemployment benefits, the $600, which of course, you know, they're going to keep in there. They wouldn't dare with almost 50 million people out of work. Mitch McConnell wouldn't dare, and they're trying to act like they don't want to use it as $2 trillion. They want to stay below $2 trillion. And if I'm the Democrats, why would I go along with that? I would just be sitting there going like, yo, man, y'all got to continue what's been working unless you got a better plan. And it's even better that homeboy got a plan, and they should just take his plan and say, no, we have to use our plan. See, you know, when it comes down to trying to help the people, you see now that the white guys who are in charge, they're only thinking about them and their culture, or their perceived part of the culture. Let me put it that way. And not believing, like you said earlier, that people have their own machine in the pocket and people actually can see what's going on. And the news and information is not dictated to anyone anymore. You know, we're not in that naive bubble like we talking about earlier about Martin Luther King and them now, where all of a sudden, wow, we got this wonderful thing called news, and we can use it for something instead of just having regular TV shows about regular stuff. We can actually see what's going on in the country, keep the country better informed. Well, people quickly figured out how to weaponize that, how to control that, how to powerize that, use that for their own power. But that's what happens in this country. But what they haven't seen is that now we have a way where people can see them doing all this stuff. Where people can pull out, like you said earlier, they can pull out their little devices. They could, you know, boom. It's really, I've said this before, you really have to work hard not to know anything now. You got to work at that, man.
Yeah.
Because of that machine in your pocket.
You got to turn everything off. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not looking at TV. I'm not going on the internet.
We're not having those kind of in the hallway arguments that we had growing up, where somebody would say something, people go, man, you don't know that. And all of that go with that. Now everybody can just take out their thing, go on the Google machine, verification, keep it moving.
Yeah.
What whole new world.
Whole new world, man.
Whole new world, man. And so you can't. So for them to think that no one's watching them, you have to change how the chambers of power has to work, because now you have more observations, and nothing was more clearer than the impeachment thing. We don't want to know. They didn't want to know all the information. Mm-hmm. Now, how do they stand up to that later on, and how do they measure themselves and say, well, you know, the Republicans, I'm all about making sure that, you know, doing the right thing for the country. None of them can say they've been doing that. They can say it, but I mean, none of them can prove that. I mean, you start saying this, so you know, it's like playing baseball or football or something, and you're going, oh, I didn't do that. And going, yo, the game's on TV still.
You're tuned in to GHCR.NYC, Grant Houses Community Radio.
I mean, you know, it's like, you know, you saying, well, I didn't play that bad in the game, man. None of it was my fault. And people's going, still, we was watching you on TV.
Yeah.
we seen you. Yeah, we seen you, Stu. Yeah, but that wasn't my fault. Okay. You can say whatever you want, Stu, but we was watching. Look, there you go. I remember Damian Wayans had this little thing about his kids when they were little, and you know, his kids came in, and his kids came and said, man, you're a messed up parent. He said, no, you a messed up kid. He said, hold on, let me get the tape. he said, there's your little brother. See him, he's got a little hatchet in his head. You did that. They go to tape. You know what I mean? That's what we have today. When they go, oh, I didn't say that. No, you said that. There you go. No, you was in front of the church with the Bible upside down. You know, he's the guy that he doesn't want any more testing. He wants the CDC to send all of the things to some agency that he controls. Right, that's what he wants. Yeah, he's going to change it, and he's like obvious with it. He's going to do that. He's sending him and Bill Barr are sending in people in uniforms to go come to different cities when no one asked him to do it. He got the mayor of Seattle suing him for sending the troops in there to try to help them with the riot when they didn't ask for the help. They didn't want no help.
Yeah, Portland. Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, Portland. I mean, what is the? I mean, you know, what are they thinking? Don't they know that everybody can see everything that's going on?
You know, yes, they do know, which is part of the reason why they're doing it, and they're trying to spin and convince what you're seeing with your lion's eyes is something that you're not seeing. I think it's all about the optics. They very much know that people are watching, and that's why they did it. You know, they're trying to provoke something that looks like lawlessness so that they can run their agenda of law and order. So, I mean, they know that people are watching. It's a question of what they're trying to provoke and how they're trying to spin it.
Well, you know, it reminds me of, I thought, when you said that, I thought about him with the hordes of Mexican people coming over to take over the country. And we're going down the border to get those ladies, those people with the kids and everything to stop that. And now he's going after the protesters in the cities when no one's asked them to help because the mayor's helpless. And he doesn't think anybody sees that. Or the Republicans don't think that anyone sees that. It's pretty distracting, Stu, when you really kind of think about it, that they think that we're not observing them make these kinds of
so you know, that's part of their, you know, you said it earlier, that's part of their hubris.
But here's the thing. I'm just reading Mark McKee. He was filling in. He said that also even when remote learning, parents must still have someone to monitor the kids unless remote takes place in the evening. Well, you know, he's making a good point. If you're looking at, this is Mark McPhee, he said this on the YouTube in the chat room, Stu, and he's making a good point, Stu. However, Stu, that he's assuming that, you know, you're going to have the traditional 9 to 5 going to your job, and
that's changing too.
I'm just saying, and particularly in a city like this, that's not always the case. You may work from 3 to 11, and so you're home all day, and your kids, who's going to be watching your kids in the evening? Or you may work 11 to 8. Who's watching your kids at night? So the watching the kids part, that I don't know if that ever goes, that part goes away. I think you have, you know, I think watching your kids is what you have to figure out how to do. And when your kids get a certain age, they can't be alone. And then when they get another age, maybe they shouldn't be alone, but certainly. I was just thinking about some of my teenage years still, you know, right. Maybe that's the case. But at some point, certain ages that your children are, they can't be alone. So I don't know. I think that even with the remote learning, I think the game's changing. Now, do you have remote learning where, like they was talking about on TV with the pod thing, where your kids go to a place right around the corner from you, where somebody where there's 4 or 5 of them and somebody's monitoring that? Do you do that? I mean, does that happen? Or is there some place in your building where they have a community room where somebody comes in and the kids do the remote thing in there, like sort of more like the rubber room that they have at the Board of Ed for wayward teachers who they can't fire because of their union contract, which probably helps for the $27 billion a year fund. I mean, you know what I'm saying, Stu? I mean, to me, and he's making a good point, if you're going to have remote learning and if you're going to do that, I think you would have to do it as part of your homeschooling. I don't know if that could be something for everybody.
Yeah, well, clearly, you and thanks, Mark, for that comment. You know, the whole, you know, the babysitting, warehousing aspect of school has to be totally rethought. And you just identified what sounded to me like a couple potentially creative solutions in terms of a community room in a building or in the neighborhood, where you could have some kind of quote unquote supervision of the kids as they do their remote learning. Clearly, we got to come up with some creative ways to do that. And the other thing I would say is that, you know, of the 40 million or so folks that are unemployed right now, a lot of them are not going to be going back to their old job, or they're not going to be going back to the job as it used to exist. And I think a lot of the work is now going to be transitioned to online, to virtual.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's already happening. And I don't think employers are going to go back to, oh, I got to maintain a building and an office and pay for all that upkeep, when they have seen over this last 4 or 6 months that they can get a lot out of their employees working at home. I think that's not going to be lost on business owners.
Well, you know, Mark also says that he thinks that they're trying to send a lot of people back to work, which I, of course, agree, because they actually say that a lot. They actually get on there and say, oh, well, you know, we got to get the kids to school, otherwise people ain't going to go back to work. And to get to your point is, I really don't believe that there's going to be, I don't think being inside with a lot of people is working right now. So if you have a job where you have to be inside with a lot of people, I don't see how that's going to work right now.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I just want to say welcome, Bob Ponce. Are you there?
I am here. How are you this morning?
We're doing well.
Good. What are we talking about?
Well, okay, go ahead, Stu.
No, just we've been talking about you know, earlier we were talking about the economic apartheid and you know, the mayor's reaction to the fact that only 1% of the billions of dollars spent by the city on the COVID response went to businesses of color, and there was a reverend from Abyssinian Baptist Church, Reverend Reggie Backus, that had a press conference this past week where he called for the creation of a Black Business Equity Coalition that would receive 40% of all New York City spending, government spending.
He's on WHCR, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, he does the show before mine.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought it was a powerful proposal that he put forward. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we talked about that 40% set aside specifically for Black folk only.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we talked about that, and then we kind of segued to what we're talking about now is the whole homeschooling, remote schooling, and, you know, how that has to get balanced with the notion of folks not being able to go back to work if their kids are at home. And Doug was proposing a couple of creative solutions, potentially like a community room in a building or neighborhood where students would come and do the remote learning under some sort of supervision or guidance by someone. Mm-hmm. But clearly that has to be rethought. And the last piece that I threw in there was that I think a lot of the 40 million folks that are unemployed are not going back to work. And if they do go back to work, a lot of them are going to go back to a virtual situation, not going to go back to, they got to report to a building. Mm-hmm. I think employers and business owners have learned a lot about the power of telework through this crisis. And I think that's going to have a big impact on the workforce. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we were. But I'll leave out, Doug.
Oh, you left out the part that the mayor actually, in the article, admitted that even though this whole year they've only given out 1% of the total contracts to anybody other than a white guy. He did admit in writing that They were busy and they forgot about the MWBs.
Yeah. You know, somebody's getting ready to form a task force to study.
He already has that. He has that
Oh,
already.
they've got the task force.
He has the task force already. And guess who's running the task force? His wife.
Oh, okay.
She's going to solve everything. Whenever there's a black problem, he goes to his wife.
Right.
Because she's black.
Yeah.
There you go. So, you know, he has so you missed that part, and we thought it was it. He also said, Bob, that the current system that they've been using for the last 40 years is corrupt. I'm serious.
Did he also tell you that in a shocking development that water is wet?
Oh, I have to go check that, Bob. Let's see. Wawa is wet. Let's see. I'll have to go. No, he didn't. I don't know if he said that, but I thought that I thought that he was being a smidge disingenuous. Disingenuous.
Just a smidge.
Smidge. Yeah.
Maybe more than a smidge. Maybe a smudge. Maybe a smidge.
Well, here's what. Let me.
Maybe a dollop. Maybe a dollop.
Well, for those of you who only usually, because there's a certain amount of people that come on and listen to the show as soon as you come on, Bob. I would like, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read a little excerpt of the very short article that they wrote. Okay. Mayor de Blasio on Monday said the city failed minority and women-owned businesses by not granting them sufficient COVID-19 contracts during the height of the pandemic, blaming outdated practices and the bureaucracy for the imbalance. De Blasio vowed to fix the problem by streamlining the system and touted his task force on racial inclusion and equity headed by his wife, First Lady Charlene McCray, to spearhead the effort. The procurement process is too complex. We've got to make it both smart and effective, but also simple. The mayor faulted what he said were the corrupt contracting processes of the past 40 years for a number of checks and balances that discourage minority and women-owned businesses and enterprises from applying. He did not say why white businesses were not similarly encumbered by the process. So there you go. He said, here's the other part he said. De Blasio noted that the chaos during the, wait a minute. Minority and women-owned business received less than 10% of COVID-19 contracts despite the de Blasio administration's goal of 30%, which means, Bob, that the goal is to make sure that white men get only 70% of everything. Mm-hmm. De Blasio noted the chaos during the pandemic as an obstacle to prioritizing MWBEs. Let me repeat that again, Bob.
Please don't repeat it again. I don't want to hear it.
Okay, Bob. At the beginning of the crisis, it was literally hand in mouth with the PPE and everything else. Whenever we could get supplies, de Blasio said, this is why they forgot us, the MWB, excuse me. Now we've got to refocus our efforts on equity. Mm-hmm. Those were the mayor's words after being slammed on July 12th by Crain's magazine for only giving 1% of, in fact, Bob, Crain's noted that the city's only given out 1% of its total contracts to anybody but a white man this whole year so far. And we're in month 7.
So, you know, there's a lot.
There's some numbers for you there, Bob.
Yeah. So first of all, it doesn't sound like the numbers actually changed during COVID. They were the same numbers as they were before COVID. So it kind of, you know, the excuse that, we were busy with COVID doesn't really wash. If you were at the 1% line before COVID and you're at the 1% line during COVID, then the real question is, why is this a persistent problem? You know, but COVID just brought it to light, which is what COVID does. COVID is like the X-ray. To tell us where all the pathology is. So the other thing that I've noticed about, you know, even though de Blasio and Cuomo don't get along, they share a lot of the same traits. And one of those traits is that they are quick to agree to what the problem is, slow to actually come up with solutions. But they say it with such force that there's a implication that change is forthcoming, and the change is usually coming when they call on the task force. Task force are like the Avengers, but with no superpowers.
Right. Well, they have the only superpower that we come up with a report that no one reads later.
Yeah, exactly.
And take a long time to do the report, by the way.
Task force. They need their own theme music.
Well, Bob, is that when you were talking, about the mayor and his the 1%? To me, it seems like that program is no bueno. I don't see how that program works when it's a program set up to ensure that everyone continues to be a minority. That program is not set up so that once you get in the program, you'll be able to get a majority contract or get a regular contract like any other person. It's not set up for that. It's set up so that once you get in it, you only can get a certain number, ergo, you never get out of it. And
when you say that word ensure, it reminds me of the scene in The Godfather. And the scene is where, Don Corleone is breaking down some game to Michael. And the game is, this is how you know who the snitch is.
Right.
And he says, somebody's going to come to you, somebody who you know and trust, and they're going to set up a meeting and they're going to ensure your safety. In that meeting, you'll be assassinated. So when people use that word ensure,
you know what it means.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing about our mayor de Blasio is, and this is something that he shares with Donald Trump, and that is, we didn't elect family members. So, putting your wife in charge of a task force on minority business representation is not only disingenuous, but it's also kind of an affront to why is there no other Black person in this city of millions of persons, Black entrepreneurs, or even, you have this brother who runs the small business department. Why don't you empower him to do more?
They got rid of him, man.
They got rid
of him. The tall guy.
When did they get rid of him?
About 3 weeks ago, and maybe a month or two ago, and they brought in a lady. The lady got the job.
What? Why?
They didn't say why.
Oh man, we got to look into that.
Yeah, just let him. He wasn't. Listen, we've talked to him. We interviewed him a couple of times. We have, Stu and I. Because he's out of Brooklyn, by the way, and he, basically told us that he's not allowed to do anything. They had a very interesting, because we streamed the city council channel on our website, and one time they had a very interesting thing where they were trying to find out what was going on with one of the money that the city council had put out, what was going on with it. And they marched him in there, and to ask questions, and they marched the other agencies in there, and the only person that answered any of the questions was him, in which he couldn't. And all the agencies that came in there who didn't do what they were supposed to do, even though they got allocated certain monies, they brought in a Black person, and the Black person was always surrounded by, seated on the council, in front of the council with 2 white people on the side, and the white people always had the answers. The Black person would not know the answer, and she would, or him or her would look to the left or the right, and then the white person will come with the answer.
Now, I
thought that was interesting observation.
I think you should go back to that video, and you might see the Black person holding up a little sign saying, "Please send help."
My heart's dead. Hey, look at this. Mark McPhee says, in regard to Charlene, I'm calling her by her first name, nepotism at his best. I bet she will get a salary too. Damn Skippy. What his idea is, here's the thing that I love about him, though. You got to give him credit. If you're a married person, he has hooked his wife up with shit. He hasn't helped nobody Black. He hasn't done. Me and Stu went down. We ain't got to go over that again. Me and Stu went down his list of. We we couldn't think of anything that he's done that even shows that he's a progressive. But he has hooked up his wife. That's one thing he's done. And he made sure she got a salary. That's his ode to the blacks. I did it with my wife.
I think it's all more than likely that there are 2 other black people in his life, and his kids.
But they unlike Trump, those 2 kids, they don't work for the city. Only his wife does.
They don't work for the city now.
Or that we know about, by the way, either. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
well, he's leaving next year. So.
Oh, thank God for term limits. You know, thank you, Mike Bloomberg, for giving that back to us.
I think I would. This is just me, but I think they should seriously have a recall provision on all elections, and people can go by mail and vote to throw somebody who they had picked out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be, you know what I mean, because we've all been in relationships and we've gotten kicked out. So I don't see any problem with kicking out a politician after we voted him in. I don't actually see anything wrong with that. You just got to be a big boy about the whole shit.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion.
Yeah, that's good.
Just my opinion. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I think we should all have that. I think that would bring the democracy power cycle into full circle.
So that is we'll call that the Doug Frazier, it's not you, it's me rule.
I mean, it doesn't have to. I'm not so hung up on having my name on it, but I'm hung up on the concept of being able to throw somebody out.
Right.
That's all.
But we're gonna say it's not you, Mayor. It's us.
It's us. we made a mistake. Yeah. Because they would have threw Trump out last year.
Right.
If you had that, you had a national recall program, 2018. In fact, I'm sure Mitch McConnell and all, especially when you're giving somebody 6 years. Anybody that's getting a term that's longer than 2 years, there should be there should be a recall thing. Because 2 years go by kind of fast. You could do a 2-year person. You can put up with some bullshit for 2 years. Okay, all right, this is all bullshit. Oh, we only got to put up with it for 6 more months. But the people that's in there for 6 and 4, we should have recalls so that if they do something that we don't like, we can we can get together and vote by mail to get rid of them. They did that in California, by the way, to one of the governors. I don't know if y'all remember that guy.
I do not know.
He came after Arnold Schwarzenegger. He got in there. He got in there for about 2 years. They threw his ass out. He got recalled. You remember that, Stuart?
Oh, no. But you listening to that proposal, it to me it brings up another issue that is a systemic problem here in this country with elections. Is that the money in the elections, the thing that the people that have the 2-year terms, congressmen complain about, is that they're constantly running for re-election and don't have time to govern. And that's because, the election process itself is fraught with so many issues, in my mind anyway. Starting with the fact that, it's so much of it is based on how much money you have, how much advertising you can buy, and on your spending, on the PACs that you have organized. So much of it is not really related to your platform, your positions, or even your performance in the job. And so, I mean, although I like your notion of recall, Doug, until the election process itself is fixed, I think you still got a problem.
Well, on that, I always think that I don't understand, and I understand why the media wants people to do it, but, and so I'm going to use that term. But if you have something called the PBS, if you have C-SPAN, if you have all of these, the NPR, why aren't the politicians and all of them on that? Why aren't they on that? Why aren't they on that? And when we want to go and get our politic opinion on, we go to the things that are run by us, the people, and then you take all the money game out of it. So it's all free. You ain't got to pay nobody to be on that. Then to go fucking govern.
You'd have to prohibit them from being on commercial TV, which may be an interesting idea. If they were on commercial TV, then that's where they would have to go.
Why would you have the provisions to just for folks at home that don't get that?
Because the commercial guys spend all the money to get the eyeballs, to get the viewers, and so the politicians want the maximum viewers. That's commercial TV. So if
yeah, you're right. So they can't. So they not on that. They got to be on the free shit. Right. So that way they're not spending no money and then they're not lying to us. Then boom. Okay. Now what about social media?
And then big media, which in my mind has a way outsized impact on the elections in terms of how they shape, how they control, how they present. You would take that out of the equation. I think that would be an incredible thing if that were to happen.
What about social media, Stu? Would you ban them from being on that, or they only had to be on NPR on the free public stuff when they're politicking?
I don't. I'd have to think about that. The social media thing has certainly been twisted and weaponized in so many ways that
what about if you had no paid ads, Stu? What about if you had no paid ads? You can't buy ads from anywhere. Got to be on the free shit. That would get you there. That would get you there.
I'm starting to like that.
Yeah, that would get you there, right?
I think it would. I mean,
yeah, that would get you there.
Certainly 3/4 of the way there.
We're forcing you to run your commercials on the free shit.
Mm-hmm.
So they can still produce their own commercials, their own media, but they got to play it all on the free shit.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting then. I think then you would.
I mean, I think.
What do you think about that, Bob?
I think that they're great ideas. I think, practically speaking, until we get at least the Democrats to be more progressive, we don't really even have a legitimate shot at this, because the problem that we have is that, half of the Democratic Party is the Republican Party. So let's talk about that. I mean, we've been trying to weed out some of them here in New York. You see, Elliot Engel lost his primary, and we have AOC, but those are bright spots. And in between those bright spots, there's a lot of so-called Democrats that have gone along with a lot of foul shit.
Yeah. And, you mean like the 51? You mean like the people who are some of the people that we have down at the city council today?
Oh,
who are Democrats? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. We mentioned them earlier, Bob. You just relit the flame.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean.
No. That was a good thing. I just wanted to get that in because you're backing us up.
I don't want to get your pressure up. That's all.
No. That's gonna happen. This is a great conversation because it's about things that are relevant, and we're talking about things that could actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff. And we got the pressure up 3 weeks ago. Now we get a chance to talk about it. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I like that idea, Bob. I like I think that the city council people, again, are lording over. I always use it in that context. They're lording over that big, gigantic budget. And like the article said, this whole year, 1% of the money has gone to someone that has gone to other than a white candidate, white business person, and with the money that belongs to everybody. Now, and I'm saying, how could you have the city council being run majority by people of color, and their sole responsibility is to make sure that the budget and vote on the budget? And they're voting on this kind of stupid shit.
You're tuned in to GHCR, Grant Houses Community Radio, home of the Community News Service.
I think that was a question, Bob.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think that obviously we're hoping that now with this increased scrutiny on real changes for Black folk, that we can exert a higher level of pressure to actually get some things done. And I think there's a window here, and we need to get stuff through this window, because by the time fall rolls around, the same people who are rushing to show how progressive they actually are and how they do believe that Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 by September, October, a lot of those people are like, all right, we've done enough. And whether they've actually done anything, they'll be like, well, we've done enough.
Hey, Bob, you know what? And if they do that, Bob, well, I'm going to use a sports analogy. If they do that, then we should be willing to bust their fucking ass about that, man. You know what I mean? Because when you go out there, if you're going out there, we're going out there, we're playing in the game, and then all of a sudden you're going to start point shaving, man. What? We're on the same, now, once you're on the team with us, now you're going to turn around and start point shaving? That's when people usually get up in your Kool-Aid. So I think if they do that, there ought to be a price to pay for that, man. You know, let's get rid of some of these people. They don't need that job. None of those jobs are guaranteed, just like the cops. The jobs ain't guaranteed. They don't do what we need them to do. We should get rid of them. They're not guaranteed jobs. You know what I mean, Bob? We should call them out for that, Bob. That's all I'm saying, Bob. I'm saying that they should get called out for that, and I'm talking about relentlessly so, nonstop. Okay. Now, I don't think we should let people. I don't think we should look at this as a moment. I think we should look at this and say, you know what? We're not letting nobody off the fucking hook, Jack. None of you motherfuckers, none of the shit y'all been pulling, we ain't letting nobody off the fucking hook. And the beauty of this is that we got the machines in the pocket, so we got the evidence. So it ain't like none of this, the shit that's happened is going away. People got digital files, Bob. So I would agree with you at one point, that's how it used to be, but I don't think it can be like that anymore. We want shit to be real. Can't be that way no more.
Well, I'm hopeful, but here's
I'm hopeful with you. I'm hopeful with you.
But I'm not that hopeful because
well, people got to want to fight. People got to get mad and want to fight. You're right, Bob. People got to get mad and want to fight. And okay, and we all know that they are everybody's capable. So I ain't losing hope on that part of it. So and maybe people should get mad if they try to walk away and act like, you know, after they've done nothing. Maybe people should get mad about that.
So okay, but first of all, okay, so get people getting mad. So number one,
and vote. And vote. We got to vote. We got a big election coming up all the way around. Get mad and vote. Vote some of them turkeys out of there, Bob. Man, I don't see nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Get them out of there. Get them out. I'm talking about city council, all of them, Bob. Get them out of there.
Okay. If it was that easy, everybody.
Hey, Bob, when people ain't been but let's put it this way, Bob. People ain't been motivated to do that before. This is different. And we had Charles Barron on a few months back who was a COVID, he had COVID and everything. And he came on and he started breaking down what little that they give to these guys to sell us out. Mm-hmm. And so my point is I would go back and get that interview and let people hear that. He was spilling his guts. He said, here's how they do it. Here's who the guys that are doing. These 2 white guys now they changed one of them, the Brooklyn guy. They got that black guy from Brooklyn, the congressman. He's one of the guys. But the guy that AOC AOC defeated, him and another white guy are the 2 guys who was making all decisions about who's going to be the speaker, who's going to get all the jobs. They've been running shit. Now they out. Mm-hmm. So all that shit got snitched. Now we know who's doing it. That's who's picking. And so whoever's the speaker is the person that gets to decide what happens with the money. And you notice there's always been a white person. Ain't been no black men in there. So they need to get their game together down there, because that's a big chunk of change they got down there, and they ain't doing nothing about it. Except for coming back and telling us how they trying to treat them to be fair. And we go and you ain't hear them offer none of us no reparations. They offer us no nothing, man. They ain't give nobody nothing, man. The governor's the one that came and said nobody got to pay their rent. What has any of them done? Why are they there? That's what we got to remember, man. When they start acting like doing the shit you getting ready to invariably do the shit that you saying they're gonna do, we gotta smack them in the face and go, no, we see you, man. We ain't going for that shit. Get your ass up out of here, man. Catch your buddy, like they tell you upstate. Catch your buddy. Talk about it walking. Get them on. Let them sit around and walk up and down Lenox Avenue. Talking about I used to be a city council person. Right. I'm good with that.
Doug, I think you should stop beating around the bush and really start to share what you think about this.
That's it for me, Bob. My bad.
Okay. No, you
were saying, Bob.
I'm just trying to get your pressure back down. Bro.
It's down. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
You know, your family be paying me money to come on. Just lower it down a little bit. Just
he's
a little,
at it again.
you know.
Hey, Bob, he's at it again.
Yeah. You one extra shake of salt away from me.
Well, hey, Bob,
okay,
we don't want to let him off the hook, Bob. That's the point I'm making.
I agree with you on all that. My issue is that all of us, black and white, we have been programmed to have a short attention span, and we're also programmed to respond to triggers. And one of the things that I feel like the Trump administration has weaponized racism in a different way than it has in the past. Obviously, racism by definition is pre-weaponized. But the way that they're doing it now is they use racism to cover the distraction for all the other crimes that they're committing. It's like Die Hard, where the criminals come in and they act like they're terrorists, but it's really a heist, you know? So it's the same thing. Trump acts like a racist, and I'm not saying he's not a racist, but he uses racism as the cover for the heist. He's using it as the cover for a fascist grab of power. That's I know that early on you guys were talking a little bit about what's going on in Portland, and so even if you're a diehard racist, if you go by the code that most of these diehard racists go by, you should be troubled by what's going on in Portland, because that's basically white people who they're snatching up off the street, you know, and disappearing. So that's not part of the white supremacist plan. White people are supposed to be sacrosanct. So but the racism is used as a cover because he's fleecing them, just like he's not fleecing us. We already know, but he already knows when, you know, we're not voting for him. We're not, you know, we didn't vote for him last time. After 4 years of this bullshit, we're sure the fuck not voting for him now. But if he could siphon off a little here, if he could get Kanye to siphon off some votes, whatever, he'll do it. But the main thing is that he continues to throw the dog whistles and the secret sign and all that to let the white supremacists know that, hey, I'm in your corner, you know, white to the day, to the end of the road, you know. And that's a cover for all of the money that he and his cronies have stolen, you know, his nepotism, you know. So what we have to do is we got to understand that we can't be triggered by every racist act that comes, because that's part of the ploy. You know, it's like he's going to say something racist. He's going to do some tweet about the Confederate flag. So we got to go up in arms again. I'm not going up in arms every time the man says something racist. When he says something racist, I start looking behind that. It's like, what else are you hiding? You know, to me, that's a tell. You know, when he's going full on racist, that's a tell, because, you know, he waffles back and forth. You know, sometimes
he's a waffler. He's a waffler.
He tries to go like, no, I don't have a racist bone in my body, which is just plain gaslighting. But then every now and then he's got to come out with the, you know, what about the Confederate flag, and what about the great, you know, these are fine people too. Even though they're marching with Nazi flags, they're fine people too. So he throws those codes out there, but while he's doing that, what did they put out $500 billion in March, and nobody really knows where all that money went. But, you know, seems like everybody close to the president and close to Congress got money in the first wave. $500 billion.
Hey, Bob, remember this, Bob. It's a good idea when you have someone who you know what they're going to be doing. That's the beauty of him. The positive side of him is that you actually know what it is that he's going to be doing. And what the main thing he's going to be doing is lying. That's first. Mm-hmm. And then the people, like you said, the people behind him are going to be doing what they do, which is, as Stu says, misbehaving. When they don't think they're misbehaving, but they're misbehaving because they're doing everything that's all about them. They're incapable of doing anything with anybody other than themselves. Now, you know, that's the lesson that we all need to just embrace. They're incapable of doing anything, particularly economically, with anyone but themselves. And it's the same thing with power. They're incapable of doing anything about power unless they're the ones that are deciding it. Now, we just have to figure out how to use that to our advantage.
Well,
Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who, as you said earlier, who have been woken up by the COVID and see the kind of things that is going on, and see, just like all the rest of us, that a lot of this stuff, a lot of this shit is not going to be sustainable, man.
mm-hmm.
You know, the thing that you was talking about, how, and I was telling us about the documentary, how, you know, they went from, as soon as they heard everybody saying black power, all of a sudden they tried to act like they didn't know what we were talking about. And that's the thing you're talking about, Bob. That thing where they turn the switch off and all of a sudden act like they don't know what's going on so they can continue their misbehaving. That ain't going to work this time.
So my
that's
theory,
what I'm saying. It ain't going to work.
I'm going to give you, and I'm going to give you a theory, and these are very broad brush numbers. They're not rooted in any actual data study, but it's just kind of a chalk mark that somewhere between 30 and 40% of this country are pretty much, you know, out and out white racists, white supremacists, and they're pretty much, you know, they might not share it with us, but they'll share it with their own circle. You know,
let's say, Bob, they're open to a lot of things.
Well, yeah, but let's just call the white racist, white supremacists. There's another 30, 40% that's in the middle. I'm going to use a term that only a white person would come up with, but I was trained by white people, so I can say it. They're racially insensitive. So these are people who, some of them are racist too, but they're not cognitively racist. In fact, in their own minds, they are absolutely not racist, but their actions speak different.
Oh, they're asymptomatic.
Yeah, no, they're definitely symptomatic. They just don't recognize the symptoms. Okay. So there's a 30% that's in the middle that speaks out against racism, but actually doesn't do anything about it. They're either indifferent or somehow, you know, their white fragility starts for them to question anything that actually has black empowerment. And then there's another 30-ish% that are people that are anti-racist. And most of those people are already people of color who have felt the brunt of racism, whether they be Black, Hispanic, Native American, you know, some immigrants, and some white people who are actual allies, you know, and they do exist, you know, rarely seen in the wild, you know, kind of like unicorns and Bigfoots, but you can find them. So the thing is that this election is going to be decided by getting the people in the middle, that group that I'm calling racially insensitive or racially indifferent, to sway away from Trump. And it can be done, but you're not going to get them coming across with the argument about racism because they're tone deaf to it. But what you can do is you have to talk to them about the heist that's going on, about what's going on with the environment, what's going on with the nepotism, and there's so many things. Wow. The disrespect for veterans, the disrespect for the military, the Russian bounty. There's a whole list of things besides racism that this president is so guilty of, and his card he has to play is that he wants to pound home the racism thing because he's counting on the 30 or 40% that are definitely in there, and he's counting on enough of the other 30% to not hear the racism thing or be triggered by it, because that's the other thing about stuff about racism. It creates two triggers. One trigger is for Black people because it's like enough already, you know, and that's why we've kind of been pushed back, and they have not counted on the depth of the response after George Floyd. So that's caused a lot of people to reconsider. It's like maybe they are going to take revenge. You know, but it also triggers white people who feel that they're not racist, but they're racially sensitive. They are so, if you bring up anything related to racism, they're like, I just don't see color. that's the first sign of people in that category.
Right. We know
when somebody says, "I just don't see color," it's like, okay, here we and tell me if somebody hasn't said that in your presence.
Yeah, well, you're not going to convince those people.
Oh, here we go. So those people, you have to talk to them about, hey, did you see what's going on with the disrespect to our veterans and our military who they had bounties on? Why isn't Trump doing something about that? Or, hey, you know, there's 10,000 sites in this country that have bad water. And it's like, did you see that you got it in your town too? Why did he dismantle the EPA? Why did he dismantle the education? You know, there's so many things that affect everybody that he has basically just screwed up. And then, of course, the granddaddy is the COVID response.
Oh my gosh.
That I just feel like the Democratic Party has no real clue on how to win election that is more winnable than ever. Right now, sitting here in July, they have a much better chance post-COVID of winning this thing than they did pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, I would say if COVID hadn't come up, you know, I think Trump would be.
It was a toss-up.
And we're not winning a toss-up because
no one wins a toss-up, Bob.
No, Trump wins.
By definition. I'm talking about. There's going to be losers on both sides. Is what I'm really saying.
Yeah, but when the tie goes to the runner,
correct.
You know, toss-ups go to the incumbent, especially when the incumbent has already ceded the Supreme Court in his favor and already has the legislature. You know, he's got the Senate locked up and the House is dysfunctional. So, you know, it has to be.
Why do you think the House is dysfunctional, Bob?
Same thing I said, because we got a bunch of so-called centrist Democrats who have no spine, have no integrity, and have signed off on stuff that they should never have signed off on and haven't fought the battles that they should fight.
You mean like the Republican Congress, or you mean the Democrats in the Congress, or you mean the Democratic in the whole Congress, the Senate and the House?
I'm talking about the House right now. The Senate Senate we already know. The Senate is on lockdown. Mitch McConnell and his crew have made, and plus the fact the Senate has always been the playground of the rich. The Senate is the reason why our system really doesn't work, because you know there are states that have like populations that are less than you can take like 5 square blocks of Harlem, and there's states that have less populations than that, but they have 2 senators, you know, fighting for their interests in Congress. So we know the Senate is a bastion of white supremacy and you know, predatory capitalism.
Bob, this is where you would insert from a conversation of a few minutes ago, insert recall in right there.
Insert recall?
Yeah. Remember I'm saying we want to have the recall. So if somebody has more than 4 years or 6 years, you have the recall thing because, because we got some punk ass senators, man. We do. And I understand what you're saying with the population thing. I'm with that, but that's how it is. But I just think you can't have no punk ass, we gotta have some, I ain't gonna say all of them, we gotta have some badass legislators up in here, man. We don't need everybody to be that mama, but we need like a couple of badasses up in there that's going to get up and call it out. Well, that's all I'm saying. That's what I'm arguing for.
I am looking for the day when Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez becomes senator.
Okay. Cortez. A badass. She needs some help. A badass. Yeah. Well, we met with Torres. You know, he seemed like a pretty intellectually smart. He seemed like a real smart kind of guy, right? Stu? Didn't you think of that?
Yeah, I was impressed with him.
I was too.
And I don't think he's a scaredy cat either.
No, he didn't seem like that, man. At all. So I'm glad he's going in there. But that's what I'm saying. We need some more of them some Billy badasses or Billamina badasses up in there that ain't afraid not to have the job. That's what I think you're gonna need. Once you get that, then you got a chance. to get in there and get what you're saying going, because you're right, Bob. They're going to get in there and they think that people are going to forget. And I think we might be lucky this time when we ain't going to have that problem.
And Rolando.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey, Rob.
All right. Cool. What did I miss?
Everything.
Yeah, we actually solved 90% of the world's problems, but because we're old, we forgot about them, the answers that we came up with. So now it's up to you to recreate it. No pressure. No pressure.
Okay. No problem.
What's good with you? What you having for breakfast, man?
Just a croissant and a little bit of some coffee.
Yeah.
Just came from the chiropractor.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Heading back uptown. That's pretty much it.
Hey, Ro, what about your? You said that during this week that your man LL was on the Today Show.
Oh yeah, he was last week. He was on the Today Show, and he's just getting ready to do this justice group that he's trying to do, advocate for civil liberties of Black people. And he's also doing this. He wants to go back to what interested me was he wanted to go back to the old school hip hop days, and he's trying to galvanize the history and create that as a movement. I had this project that I called it the fifth element of hip hop, which was, the elements of hip hop are the rapper, the MC, the breakdancer, and the graffiti artist. And I coined the fifth element as being the videographers or the music video generation that came out.
Because that's what you did?
Yes, exactly, because that's what I did. And because I think by the time I came around, it was after my generation of filmmakers came, then all of these, the ones that I came up with, they're all blockbuster directors right now. Tim Story, Michael Bay was one of them. Anton Fuqua, who did the work with Denzel Washington. He was a protege of mine, and they all came out of the generation that was created through the hip hop, the golden age of hip hop, I called it. And so I am pushing this documentary. Well, not really.
He did the Equalizer. He did the Equalizer, right, bro?
Yeah, he did the Equalizer, but the one that he got the Academy Award for was the one that Denzel got Academy Award for.
Oh, yeah. Training Day.
Training Day.
Training Day. Yes, that's Antoine Fuqua. Yeah.
Yes.
And we all came out of the same era. It was a hip hop generation. It was at that time. I mean, Spike Lee was there too.
I was wondering when you was going to say that.
Yeah, but he didn't. Luckily he was ahead of the game. He did a short film. He wasn't doing the music end of it. He tried to do a music end. He did one of the Public Enemy videos, but by the time he got into it, the generation of people that were doing it were more advanced at it per se. But for young filmmakers, it created an opportunity for us to learn our craft and get paid at the same time. Because once you started, aligning yourself with the managers, because I became good friends with Russell Simmons, I became good friends with Andre Harrell, and another woman named Ann Carley, which she doesn't get too much play for her right now, but she did all the artist development for Jive Records, and they had a pretty big catalog of artists there. So we all came out of that generation, and a lot of us went to Hollywood, during that period of time. So he wants to go back to that, and I want to kind of like proliferate or really shine light to what I call it the fifth element of hip hop, which was the music video director. Just like, the MCs and the video and the break dancers was an art form, and then the tagging was an art form. The art form of music videos was an art form too. That came out of that generation that that's not been shined light on. And so I have a project that's up at MTV, but because of the COVID situation, they kind of had to shut it down. So I'm trying to resurface it with the backing of LL, because he wants to proliferate that generation of hip hop, basically. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, that's exciting, bro. I mean, you were there for so much of it, bro, from the very beginning. I would think you have a hell of a perspective on that. You know, we go back decades. Remember when you were, carrying bags of Bill Stevens and I mean, just your perspective is what I'm saying. You've seen it all and you've done it all.
Yeah, and then I like what Doug was saying. I didn't realize. I looked at the video that I did for LL. I did 2 of his videos. I did "I'm Bad" and "I Need Love." And "I Need Love" had 30 million views in the past 11 years. The past 11 years.
So, you mean the video that me and Stu was in?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
30 million people. 30 million people
get in front of the camera first.
Yes, Doug, it's all about you.
Thank you, Bob. But Stu, you brought up the point about us doing bags together. Me and Rolando we did a thing with Bill Stevens down at this club called CBGB's, and me and Rolando were the 2 gaffers at the shoot. And he had the 3 guys that did the show was Hines, and Dad.
Oh yeah.
It was Gregory Hines. Remember that was Gregory Hines, his brother, and the father.
Yeah, I remember that.
I didn't even know who they were. Me and Ro was sitting around. We was like gaffers and shit. Did you know who they were, Ro? When we were there that night? Me and Ro, we didn't know shit. We was down in the club. We didn't know nothing.
They were on Playboy After Hours. That's the first time I saw them. Hugh Hefner had this show, Playboy After Hours, in the 60s, and they were on there. That's where I first saw them.
Oh, wow. I had no idea, man. We didn't know who they were. We were just sitting around. We was like doing all the taping. We did all the scut work for the shoot. And we didn't have any idea who they were. We were sitting around afterwards going, yo, who's them old dudes, man? That dude could really tap dance, man. Hey.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
I was more impressed because it was CBGB's. That was
me too. I was excited to be going in the club because that club had a big name. So me too.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the only time I was in there. I don't think I was in there. I don't even know if it's still there. But that was the only time I was in that club.
No, it's gone.
No,
it's gone. Okay.
Yeah, they moved it to Vegas. They moved.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Hines and Dad, Stu.
Yeah.
Yeah, we seen them. Yeah, that's going back.
But Rolando's perspective, back to that, I think you have a hell of a story to tell, Rolando. And you've seen so much. I mean, you were there really at the beginning.
At the beginning.
At the beginning. Yeah. I know.
Houses.
I really hope LL helps make that happen. That's
my contacts at MTV telling me that he's going to be part of the VMA Awards, and he's going to be doing a performance in Queens. He's going back to the hood. Wow, he's going back to Hollywood. So they told me that once they got a firm thing on that I'll have access to him. They already said that you're going to have access to him once they make that decision. So I'll have access to him, then I can push it to him, push my idea to him. But I think he's right in line on it. He's always remembered me since in the past, so I don't think it'll be a problem. But he just has so many people in front of him. Yeah, you got to get through all of those people to get to him.
Right.
So. But yeah, it's very promising.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think that I don't think they've shown enough light to that fact that we changed the genre of filmmaking.
Sure.
We changed the genre of filmmaking. Sure. The fast editing cuts, all of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I can remember, you probably remember too, Rolando. I remember when MTV debuted. And I remember some of the very first music videos, and it was like a whole new genre. So just the evolution of that, and in particular, the impact that the Black folks have had on that is that's a hell of a story.
Because BET, remember BET in the beginning? It was Video Music Box, and then BET were playing mostly all the black videos, and they were playing most of my videos at that point till MTV, and then MTV had Michael Jackson as one of their landmark guys, and I forgot who's that other guy they had. Michael, yeah, he was one. Oh, I can't remember his name right now, but yeah, that was. Yeah, somebody's trying to get my parking space. Sorry. But yeah, we definitely changed the genre of it. And at that time, it was a battle in Hollywood where they would say, no, music videos, we can't tell narratives. We can't tell narrative stories because it's just music. It's just music. So there was always this back and forth thing with Hollywood saying that we couldn't tell a narrative story. And eventually, those narratives became smaller storytelling, and a lot of those main directors became Hollywood blockbuster directors. Sure. I mean, Brett Ratner is another one.
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the white boys took advantage of it more than we did.
Yeah, like McG.
Yeah, Mike G. Yeah. Paris Barkley was one.
Yeah.
He came in late to the game. He's the president of the Directors Guild of America. I think he still is. Yeah, but that's been my background. Yeah, great.
That's great.
So I'm gonna pull off here.
Yeah, folks, I'm gonna have to take off, do something useful today.
It's always a pleasure, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Bob.
So, Doug, your blood pressure okay?
Yeah, I'm good, Bob.
Okay, good. All right, So
I was with Rolando in a lot of his adventures, so I'm good.
Okay, all right. Well, continue to take your medicinal herbs.
Yes, sir. I'm using the candies my son gave me from Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm using those right now.
Okay, well,
the Gumbies?
No, throat lozenges.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Lemon chillers.
Okay.
Yeah. They're working pretty good. That kept me quite subdued for the most of the week.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
But now you're saying that, wait, one more thing, Bob. You're saying that guy, the Rev, he does the show before you on WACR, the new guy.
Yeah, Backus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
He does it with the woman whose name I'm slipping right now, but yeah,
I seen her.
He's in the slot, from 6
I seen
to 7.
I seen them on the on the camera.
Right.
Okay.
6 to 7 on Mondays. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, Bob.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right, man.
All right.
Now, hey, Rolando.
Yeah.
You know that when you was talking about that your adventures, I mean your thing at MTV is that at Viacom? You think they might pick you up now that they dropped Nick?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it is part of Viacom, but what I was pitching to was the documentary department of
okay.
MTV.
That's not where he was.
No.
Because I read somewhere they were saying that he was trying to get the rights to his to that Wild and Out and all that shit, and I was like, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, I don't know how he's going to do that. Wouldn't all that be set up before when you sign up? Isn't all that kind of thing resolved?
I don't know if he brought the idea to them or they came up with the idea
and just brought him in. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Talent, because that's what they were talking to me about. They were talking about the project that I pitched to them. They were talking about licensing it out to another company that they deal with, and then bringing it in, and then before the COVID thing happened, they said, well, let's figure out what's the licensing agreement for this show would be, and because I'm using LL's music and I'm using a bunch of other people's music, and that's where we left off at. And and then the COVID thing, then they shut down for the last 4 months. So then they kind of wanted to do more like those YouTuber type of videos where they didn't have to, do any post-production work or any kind of flying around. So that's what happened with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yep. So now we're back at it again, I guess. So.
Oh, you think it's back open again?
If I get him endorsing it, then it's a go. It's a go. Okay. You know, that's all I need. I need him to just say whatever, and then it's a go. Then they'll spend, I don't know, the $100,000 or so in licensing fees that it may take if they find it, you know. But they didn't do that part of it yet. They didn't figure out how much
they
it would
get
cost
to that yet.
Yeah, they didn't get to that. Well, that's when we got shut down. So
okay. So you gotta see what happens.
Yeah. But they had. I mean, my boy up there, he's senior production. He said that they just have like an open book when it comes to that stuff, the open checkbook, you know, whatever it costs. So if LL backs it, if LL backs it, then they'll make it happen. That's it.
Right.
They'll just make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
then you gotta see. Good luck with him, man. See how I hope that goes all right.
Yeah, me too. So did you hear about the girl that's been painting over the Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, we talked about it earlier. Me and Stu talking about it. We saw I saw the video of the lady doing it.
Yeah, I saw it too. Yeah. I mean, she's definitely getting paid. Somebody's giving her some money on this.
Well, you sound like you've been talking to Stu, because that's what Stu said. Stu said, whose payroll is she on?
I mean, yeah, you see, I had one video. She had all the paint in the back seat of a van and everything. You know, it was a nice looking van. It just felt so orchestrated that she had to be paid. You know what I mean? You know, she got something. She got a nice check.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. She was adamant too.
And they told her, they said, if you get arrested, it's just gonna be civil disobedience, so no big deal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So she wasn't fearing that, you know what I mean? So she definitely got a big check, and she's trying to blame it on Jesus, right? Saying that, you know, Jesus matters. That's what she was talking about.
Yeah, something that said Jesus on her shirt. I didn't know I couldn't get the whole thing to the cop at her.
Jesus matters, you know.
So it made no sense.
Yeah, it made no sense. But Trump has all of them. Trump has a lot of those black holy rollers with him. You know that.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, he's got a whole bunch of them black holy rollers with him. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's where 2 and 2 came together, because he's got a couple of reverends down with him that are black.
That is true. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, you know, listen, it you know, that's how it takes all kinds.
Yeah, I agree.
To make the world go around, man. Takes all kinds, man. Well, I hope everything goes all right with the pitch for the particular for your project over at MTV, man. I hope that goes.
Yeah.
I hope that works for you. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Yeah, I know you do too.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think mainly just to mark my place in history. Really, I think my main thing was that at least, you know, I'm not forgotten. You know what I mean? Because and I don't think it's being recognized enough. You know. And
I guess recognizing yourself is where it starts at.
Yeah, you got to mark yourself. You got to mark.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
Yeah, man, you got to throw some paint on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, put some paint on it, man. Make it happen, man. You know, and you know, we already know that me and Stu is getting immortalized, because no matter what you do, that I Need Love video is going to be in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna be immortalized.
Yeah. And matter of fact, in the Today Show, they showed that video. They didn't show the whole entire video, but they opened up with that clip of him coming out of the bedroom. And
that's what me and Stu was. That's our scene, Stu. Yeah. That's our scene right there, baby. That's our scene. That's our scene, man. You know, I'm saying we world famous, 30 million. So I never seen those guys before. Go to the roll the video. You know what I'm saying, Stu? Yeah. Just in case.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what I like the most about it, Rolando, you had all those short people in it, and I looked really, really tall. I was one of the tallest guys in the room. Most people don't. Stu, you wouldn't have noticed that stuff.
Nah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember. I've seen it that many times, Stu. I said, wait a minute, look how tall I look. You know, and you very rarely get to say that, Stu.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
All right,
Yeah.
all right, guys. I think I'm winding down here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, Stewie.
All
Always
right,
a pleasure, man.
Thank you. Rolando, thank you, and keep us posted. Good luck with that project. It's very exciting. It's gonna happen.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Bye bye.
All right.
All right, man. All right. So
bro.
I'll give you a call.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, I'll give you a call.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, thanks.
Okay.
Doug, you gotta sign us off, Dougie.
Yeah, I am gonna sign us off, Stu. I want to remind everyone that next week, if they go to the YouTube or if they go to our Facebook channel at WHCR they just might learn something.
Also, don't forget safeandsmart.org.
And don't forget, Community Technology, 5 o'clock on YouTube.
All right.
All right, Stu. All right, bro.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, bro. Thanks, guys.
I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right, boss.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Okay, man. Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the wrap up of our show today, July 20th, 2020. This is the WEBT After Action Report. We're here live at Grant, and we're going to play the radio checks from earlier from the Harlem Emergency Network. Now is the time in the program where we play the radio checks, and we're going to get those going so that you'll know that what's going on. We have to doing the same thing over at Grant Houses. So we want to give a big shout out to Mr. Carlton Green, the mayor, whose assistance, none of this would be at all possible as I sit here with my granddaughter. So we're going to play radio checks for the day. And we'll see you later, granddaughter. And we will get finish up at the other side of that. So here are the radio checks for the day.
Nice to hear your voice this morning. How you doing?
I'm good. Why are we on this line?
This is Vanilla 1 calling for a radio check. Over.
Vanilla 1, this is Vanilla 2. It is now 07:30 in the morning. Over.
Vanilla 2, I need you loud and clear. I will call you on the private line in about 1 minute. Over. This is Vanilla 1 standing by. Over.
Roger that. This is Vanilla 2 standing by for the 0800 radio check. Out.
Good morning. This is radio station WQKJ 301 Harlem Information and Emergency Network on the air till 1000 hours. This is N1 as NCO this morning. And the message for the day is as follows. Today is July 20th, 2020. Temperature is 82 degrees. The high is expected to be 97 degrees. Cautious, stay hydrated, stay cool. Reminder that tomorrow at Tuesday, 2100, we have our weekly conference call check the Trello for the Zoom ID or call number. Also a reminder that our Harlem Emergency Network COVID update is live on Wednesday morning on Facebook.com/Harlem Emergency Network. Also on Harlem Emergency Network YouTube channel. This Wednesday we will be talking with Clayton Banks of Silicon Harlem, and we're going to be talking about the data involved in COVID-19. Our next amateur radio class is Wednesday at 6 p.m. Also check your Trello for the Zoom link. And that is the message for the day. We will repeat the message of the day on the half an hour up until 1000 hour. The time is now 0801. Network control is standing by for radio check from all stations. Network control standing by.
Network control. This is Benoit 1 calling for a radio check. Over.
Benoit 1, I read you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
I read you loud and clear. My location is Fishkill, New York, and my status is safe. Over.
That's affirmative. You said you're in Fishkill, New York. Your status is safe. Did you hear the message of the day? Over.
Yes, network control. I did hear the message of the day. I will be standing by to the 1000th hour. Over.
Thank you, Benoit 1. Have a great morning. Network control standing by.
Harlem Emergency Network, this is 1028. How do you read me? Over.
1028, I read you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
Control, I read you loud and clear. Over.
What is your location and status? Over.
My location is 59th and Western Avenue. My status is safe. Over.
Okay, that's a copy. Your location is 59th and 10th, and your status is safe. Did you hear the message of the day? Over.
I actually said my location is 59th and West End Avenue. Over.
That's a copy. Sorry for my error. 59th and West End Avenue. Over. Did you hear the message of the day? Over.
No, I did not hear the message of the day. Over.
Okay, we'll be repeating the message of the day at 0830. Network control standing by.
Roger that, network control. I'll be listening for the message of the day at 0830. Hen 28 will be standing by until the 1000 hour.
Network control. This is Benoit 2. How do you read me? Over.
Benoit 2, I read you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
I read you 5x5. My current location is White Plains Road between 242nd and Penfield, and my status is safe and normal.
That's a copy. You are on White Plains Road near, I think you said 241st and Penfield. Status is safe. Can you tell me, did you hear the message of the day this morning?
That's a negative. Network control. I had just stepped back in the house. My phone was on charge. My radio was on charge. Over.
Okay, I will be repeating the message of the day in about 3 minutes at 0830. Network control standing by.
Roger that. Benoit 2, standing by.
Okay, it is 0830, and this is the message of the day for Harlem Emergency Information Network on the air till 1000 hour. And today's message is as follows. Currently the temperature is, see where it is now, it is 82 degrees, and it is slated to go up to 97 degrees, actually 83 degrees, going up to 97 degrees today, so please stay hydrated, stay cool, take care of yourself. It's supposed to be cloudy, humid, and hot. Reminder that tomorrow, Tuesday, we have our conference call at 2100. Conference call. Check your check your Trello for the Zoom ID or call-in number, and I will not be on that call. Also a reminder that on Wednesday morning, we have our Harlem Emergency Network COVID update, which is live at 9:30 a.m. on Facebook.com/Harlem Emergency Network, and also on the Harlem Emergency Network YouTube channel. Also a reminder that the next amateur radio class is this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Also check your Trello for the exact Zoom link. And that is the end of the message for the day. It will be repeated again on the half an hour until 10:00. The time is now 08:32. Network control standing by for all radio checks.
Network control, this is WEBT Unit 2 calling for radio check, over.
WEBT Unit 2, I read you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
Network control, your level is very low. I'm not sure what that is. I would say I read you about 3 by 3, over.
That's a copy. Is this any better? Over. I still read you loud and clear.
Network control, level still low. Your clarity is there, but volume is low. Over.
That is 10-4. What is your status and location? Over.
Current status, safe and sound, normal. Location, New Rochelle. Over.
That's a copy. Did you hear the message of the day? Over.
No, I did not. Will you be reading it? Over.
Yes, I'll be repeating it on the half hour between now and 10:00. So network control standing by, and I will see you on the after action report. Over.
It's good. Copy, network control. WEBT Unit 2 standing by.
Hey, good morning. It is 0900 hours on the Harlem Emergency and Information Network, WQKJ 301. This is your message of the day. Today is July 20th, 2020. Temperature currently is 83 degrees Fahrenheit. High is expected to be 97 degrees Fahrenheit. So please stay cool, stay hydrated, take care of yourself. Reminder that tomorrow, Tuesday, we have our regular weekly conference call at 2100 hours on Zoom. Check Trello for the Zoom ID. Also reminder that on Wednesday morning we have the Harlem Emergency Network COVID update live at 09:30 on Facebook.com/Harlem Emergency Network. Also on YouTube on the Harlem Emergency Network YouTube channel. Reminder that the next amateur radio class is this Wednesday at 6 p.m. or 1800 hours. Also check Trello for the Zoom link. This is the end of the message for the day. I will be repeating it again at 09:30 and at 1000 hours. Network control standing by for all radio checks. The time is now 09:02.
This is CERT 11 to NCO. CERT 11 to NCO. How do you read this unit? Over.
CERT 11, I read you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
I read you loud and clear. Over.
What is your status and location? Over.
This is CERT 11. My status is normal. My location is at home, 135 and Madison. Over.
That is a copy. Network control standing by.
This is head 2. This is head 2. Harlem Emergency Network.
And 2, I read you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
I read you loud and clear. My location is Dyckman Street, 10th Avenue. My situation is normal and safe.
That's a copy, hand two. If you have not heard the message of the day, I will be giving it again in approximately 2 minutes. The time now is 09:28. Network control standing by to the 1000 hour. This is Harlem Emergency and Information Network, WQKJ 301. This is our message of the day. Today is July 20th, 2020. Temperature now is 83 degrees Fahrenheit. High is expected to be 97 degrees. Hot, humid. Make sure you stay hydrated and stay cool. Reminder that tomorrow, Tuesday, we have our regular weekly conference call at 2100 hours for the specific Zoom ID. Check Trello for the Zoom ID or call-in number. Reminder that on Wednesday morning, we're doing the COVID update live at 09:30 on Facebook.com/Harlem Emergency Network. Also on the Harlem Emergency Network YouTube channel. We will be talking about COVID-19 and the data collection, and also talking a little bit about the return to schools and what the implications are for COVID-19. Reminder that the next amateur radio class is Wednesday at 6 p.m. or 1800 hours. You can also check the Trello for the specific Zoom ID for that. That's the end of the message for the day. We'll be repeating it one more time at 1000, and that will be the last message for the day. Network control standing by for all radio checks.
Network control, this is BX Jarhead 51. Do you read me over? Radio check.
BX Jarhead 51 reads you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
I read you 5 by 5. It's been a minute since I checked in. Things been kind of busy. I just want to let you guys know I wasn't forgetting about you, and I miss being with you guys. All is well here in the Bronx, current location. I'm at Fordham website area near 194. Everything here is 5 by 5. Currently, the temperatures up here have been causing impact on the senior citizens and people with health challenges. Over.
BX Jarhead, it is good to hear your voice. Good to hear that you're doing well. I know you are doing that work up in the Bronx. I know you've been doing stuff with the PPE, and glad that you are alive and well and doing your thing. Please stay safe, stay hydrated, and network control.
You're tuned in to GHCR,
and
Grant Houses Community Radio, the soul
stay safe and
of
well.
the Upper West
I
Side.
will be in contact with any updates that's pertinent to the network. This is BX Jarhead 51. I'll be on standby until the 1000 hour. Have a good day, everyone.
This is Coed 1 calling for a radio check. Over.
Good morning, Coed 1. I read you loud and clear. How do you read me?
Morning, network control. I read you loud and clear as well. My location is 109th Street and 1st Avenue, and my situation is safe. Over.
All right, that's a copy. Did you hear the message of the day? Over.
Correct one. No, I did not hear it. I'll be listening in for the last one. Over.
That's a copy. Spoiler alert, it's going to be hot. Please stay hydrated and stay safe. I'll give the complete report at 1000. Network control standing by.
That's a copy. Thank you for that. Network control. Take care. Have a great day, everyone. Network control. Coed 1 is standing by to the 1000 hour.
Network control. This is Illinois 1 calling for a radio check. Over.
Illinois 1, I read you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
Network control, I read you 5 by 5. I am in Fishkill, New York, and my situation is safe. Over.
That's a copy. Network control standing by to 1000 hour.
Illinois 1 will be standing by past the 1000th hour. Over.
Network control, this is Illinois 2. How do you read me? Over.
Illinois 2, I read you loud and clear. How do you read me? Over.
I'll read you 5 by 5. My location is White Plains Road between 242nd and Penfield Street.
That's a copy. Illinois 2. Wanted to let you know that I updated the NCO list on the Trello, so now it's all in its own column, and you can see everybody's date that it's due, and it's also set up so that it will send out notifications to the people who are supposed to do it 2 days before. But some of the people haven't signed up, so I will have you down on some of those days to make sure that the people who aren't yet on Trello, know that they're supposed to do it. So it should cut down some of your work and wear and tear, and also make it a little bit easier for everybody to keep track of when their days are. So network control standing by to 1000 when I will be giving the last message of the day. Network control standing by.
Thank you for that, network control. I was trying to figure out how to do that. I remember you had showed us at one point, and I couldn't remember at all. I should have just called and asked you when I was doing it 2 weeks ago. Appreciate that. This is Illinois 2 standing by to the 1000th hour.
That's a copy, and when you get a chance, if you holler at me, I can walk you through exactly what I did. It's easy once you do it once or twice. It's pretty easy, and it just makes it easier on you and everybody else to just keep track of it.
Roger that, network control. Illinois 2 standing by.
Rooster 29 to network control. Rooster 29 network control. How do you read me? Over.
Rooster 29, I read you loud and clear. Good to hear your voice. How do you read me? Over.
Network control. I also read you loud and clear. And I'm safe. And my location is 125 at 7th Avenue. Over.
That's a copy. Your location 125 and 7th Avenue. Condition is safe. I will be giving the message of the day in about 2 minutes and wrapping up our radio checks for this morning. Once again, Rooster 29, good to hear your voice. Network control standing by.
Rooster 29 out.
This is network control for Harlem Emergency and Information Network, WQKJ 301. It's now 1000 hour. This is the last message for the day. Today is July 20th, 2020. Temperature as it is now is, just checking. Temperature is 84 degrees and rising, and it is slated to rise up to about 97 degrees today. It's going to be hot, going to be humid. Please stay cool and stay hydrated. That is the first and foremost message of the day. Reminder that we're having our weekly conference call at 2100 hours on Tuesday. You can check the Trello for the Zoom ID or call in number. Also a reminder that our weekly COVID update is live on Wednesday morning at 09:30 on Facebook.com/Harlem Emergency Network. Also on the Harlem Emergency Network YouTube channel. We will be talking about data collection during COVID-19. What are the implications for the CDC no longer collecting this data? We'll be looking into New York State data and how reliable and trustworthy is it. Reminder that our next amateur radio class is this Wednesday at 6 p.m. or 1800 hours. Also check Trello for the Zoom link. That is the end of the message for the day, and it is now the end of our Monday morning radio check. The time is now 10:03, and Harlem Emergency Network is now shutting down. Network control is standing down. This is N1 going off the air. Thank you for everyone who participated this morning in radio checks. We appreciate your consistency and reliability in helping us